Hi everyone and welcome to POLI.design Open Days. I'm Sofia D'Alessandro and I'm here to be moderating the presentation in our specializing mastery in design for food. Today we have the pleasure of being here with Professor Stefano Mattei, the scientific director of the program, who will give you an overview of the master. But before leaving the floor to the faculty, I just would like to introduce to you the new positioning of POLI.design. The claim "Unlock Your Design Energy" means our commitment to recognizing and enhancing the unique potential and differences of each student. We aim to nurture personal attitudes and inclination, offering a supportive environment that empowers students to become professionals, ready to assume leadership roles and tackle the complex changes of this society. Each specializing master program, of course, unlocks a distinct type of energy. So I will now hand it over to Professor Maffei in order to provide you with more details. Thank you so much and enjoy.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I will try to be informal, even if we are simply speaking, not in presence. I represent here this Design for Food program. It's a, let's say, innovative program. It's the fourth year that we really produce this master. It's about food system in general, how we could tackle through an innovation and design approach that enhance the skill in terms of what we could do to suggest a transition or design a transition in this circular food system. It's a program that was originally co-funded by Politecnico di Milano, POLI.design, and Università di Scienze Gastronomiche di Pollenzo. It mixes these two approaches that come from, on one side, design, that is our specificity. On the other side, the other characteristic competencies of our university, that is engineering on one side, and management, that is another side, and that in some cases mix and connect with this idea of agroecological, gastronomic, and food studies approach. If I have to introduce also the team, I am the scientific director. My co-director is Francesco Bombardi, architect, designer with a lot of experience also in experimental practices and projects. There is Barbara Parini, that is our didactic coordinator, and also Giovanna Gigante, that is the didactic assistant. That is quite important because we have this specific way of interacting during the classes with a person that could really help the students to develop their work and their project. If I had to imagine to tell the story which are our goals, I for sure could say that we want to define a new important role, that is this idea of having a food innovator. It's a new expert, so it's a person that is able to tackle complexity, because food systems nowadays are really complex. They mix a lot of different challenges, from the technological challenges, social challenges, political challenges, and to produce products and services in this context quite tricky, and you need to have a different approach from the traditional one. The second is that this field hosts also new kind of professionals. So the idea, you could be on one side an innovator and on another side a new kind of professional that through these competencies about food system could really produce a change in the agri-food industry. If we move on, I think that this task could be really achieved looking at the way in which we really educate the students with new skill and competencies. Obviously there is, because we are an institution, a prestigious university, both a theoretical and critical approach, because this is typical from a university environment. But we also need to understand which is the context in which the innovation takes place, and through this start innovating and managing which are the possible idea of a development path, both in system or in product and services, solving what we call, or we define, design complex problems. In this idea, obviously, we structure the program of the master it starts with the first phase in which we mainly are focused on theoretical basis, so the basics that are needed to understand the logic and the basic concept in agri-food system. Then we move towards increasing the capabilities of the candidates, teaching them how to intervene through the idea of learning about tools, processes, and practices that helps them in transforming the theoretical content into something that could be actionable. Then, through this learning journey, we also connect these direct experiences that they could make in the study trips that are like tours in specific agri-food context. Then I will introduce them later. And through a very important characteristic of our program, that is the design workshop. So we will have during the program at least 2-3 workshops that are coordinated with possible partners coming from the industry side or the research or institutional side that present real challenges that we solve together with the students, and sometimes a professor or a professional that is in charge of solving the challenge through a real design activity that lasts 2-3 weeks. So this is a fundamental characteristic. After we finish this cycle that lasts less or more from 5 to 6 months, we start the internship period that is mandatory, obviously, and it is a fantastic tool, again, to connect the learning that you did in the program to something that is a real experience. At the end, when they come back from this internship program, we will have a so-called final exam, a thesis exam, in which connecting their experience with their project work, or we will see some modalities about the internship, they could really imagine to present their work in an innovative way. And we had the experience in the last years of exceptional result that also guaranteed the candidates, the students, also for a position in the place in which they were spending the internship. Then, obviously, I already told this, but just as a quick synthesis, we start imagining the framing of this food system through this theoretical theory of how they are shaped, how they evolve, how they could be transitioned. And we do this through, lecture. We have short modules, 6 hours. It's the learning journey is split in these daily modules of 6 hours. And they always include a kind of exercise that help the students to really ground what they learn in terms of theoretical or critical approach. And this is quite relevant because we are a professional master, so we are really eager to push this capability into our students. Then, second part, as I was introducing before, there is this idea that we also have to connect with this practical experience. So on one side, we were talking about methodology, so how you shape a challenge starting from the background analysis, how you connect the stakeholders and discuss with them, how you interpret the brief for the change that is given by our partners, and through through an experiential practice, so the workshop, applying your knowledge to a problem, to solving the problem, we could really imagine that you could learn an hands-on experience. This is quite relevant if you imagine your career, for example, in an enterprise. This means also that if you imagine to have this enrichment coming from the study trips, because we didn't for sure plan it, but we could anticipate that probably also next year we will have a tour that will be dedicated to Piedmont. That is one of the most important and relevant region in terms of how we could interpret the Italian food system. And the second is Emilia-Romagna, this same thing, one of the most important and relevant part of Italy in which you could really encounter a lot of really relevant Italian experiences. So, the internship is done in two possible ways. The first one is the curricular internship. That is, as we say, an agreement that you could really connect with your interest, but finding an enterprise or an institution in which you could define together an area of work, a challenge, and then you could spend your usually 3 months period there as an intern and developing your project in agreement with the company and obviously monitored by our coordination. The second is a professionalizing project. It's a different way in which you could propose a personal path with a specific topic or challenge that could be agreed not only with an enterprise, but for example, a professor coming from another university, from our university. So these two things are quite similar, but they could also focus very different topic, and these, in our opinion, offer a broad range of possibility to our students in terms of what they want to achieve, also in connection to what they learn and also in connection to their personal life objectives. Then we have the final exam. Obviously, it's not just the traditional thesis like those in the Master of Art, Master of Science. So it's more related to the challenge and the experience that you did in your internship or in your project, and is obviously linked to a more experimental kind of path. So in the last discussion, in the last master's year, we had some project developed together by the students and the enterprise, especially that in which they were hosted. So I think that is a good opportunity to show your talent and also connect deeply with the enterprise or institution value and relation, and this usually guaranteed the possibility of having a good job opportunity in that enterprise or in that institution. We have some success stories that we also presented in our website, so in case you are interested, obviously I will be available for telling you more, or you could browse these stories just to have a suggestion about the possibility that we could offer. Study trip, as I was saying before, the two main contexts in which we will experiment this year, this academic year, will be Piedmont and Emilia-Romagna. I have to add another thing that we will produce, because we have a good part of our faculty coming from Università di Scienze Gastronomiche di Pollenzo, that we will design some special courses together with UniSG that will be hosted during the study tour in Piedmont. So our students will experiment the fact that we'll spend, I think, 1 week, 10 days there, also benefiting of the fact that in this collaboration, UniSG could offer some labs, some specific experimental practices just in their university in Pollenzo, so that they could complement their experience here in Milan with something that is different. It's a complementary vision of how Italy is related to food. I also underline the fact that Pollenzo and Università delle Scienze Gastronomiche is the starting point of the slow food revolution. Carlo Petrini was, till like last year, I think, the president of the university. So there is a strong link between the slow food culture and the experience that you could make in Pollenzo. Some images that are obviously more interesting than my words, and you see the kind of atmosphere that you could find in this study trip. So it's Milan is, let's say, hectic, sometimes chaotic, linked to design. It's a big city, so a urban experience here in the master in our campus, and then a more, let's say, relaxed, informal, kind of, let's say, historical, I would say, or linked to the heritage of our culture in Pollenzo. Just other images of the, sorry, the clicker, oh, okay. Just to mention this, this is Professor Andrea Pieroni, that is teaching agroecology, and this is an experience they do in Pollenzo, foraging herbs, fruits, flowers, and then preparing them and eating them in a one-star restaurant. So you have also the gastronomic part, but also the real contact with food. Or, for example, you will attend the food lab, in which you do, again, experiment in cooking on preparation of food. On the other side, on the left, you see the experiment done over there, for example, with fermented food, so the new techniques that could be applied also to innovate product service system. The sensory lab, in which you start learning the basic principle of sensorial analysis, is quite relevant for a lot of, let's say, development and topics. Again, Emilia-Romagna is the background of some ultra famous Italian products. Just to say, because I'm from Emilia-Romagna, I'm from Modena, so you see the visit to the vineyard of Lambrusco. I usually drink this at my home, so it's a kind of also personal memory. And the idea of entering the Pianura Padana, the real core of Italian agri-food system, visiting different kind of agricultural production, or, for example, one of the, I think, world-renowned excellence of Italy, so Parmigiano Reggiano, the way in which you make it, the way in which it's seasoned. So, understanding the real depth of how we, as Italian, meant agri-food. Aceto balsamico. So I think a lot of things that really deserve to be part of the program. Obviously, we are in connection with prestigious partners. We worked in different workshops during this year with, I don't think that we have to introduce Barilla, Lavazza, but also Montanari Abruzzo. We are working with them today. It's one of the most important Parmigiano Reggiano producers in Italy, Pasta Garofalo, again, iconic brands. Then also with institution, Milan Food Policy is one of the most advanced policy making realities in the world. So the different could range really from real concrete material experience to very abstract, dedicated to policy making, service systems, things that are part of the food systems. Going towards the end, which are the possible roles that, in my opinion, could really be prepared by the master. Just examples, obviously, because there is, in my opinion, a wide range of roles, but just to give you a hint on that. Research and development food project manager. That means that you have this horizontal vision about the systems. You are able to intervene with a design projectual approach that is able to transform really things. So it means that you could be in an enterprise or an institution, again, fostering innovation processes. Second is more dedicated to a design approach. This food service and product designer. I underline the word service because you know that I could say that 80% of the innovation that is possible today is coming from the food area, obviously connected with the product, a real product, but they must match together. So we often say product service systems. That is the encompassing definition. And I think that the person that are finishing the master are really prepared to really be this kind of profile, this kind of role. Let's see. Yes, other role, food brand manager, because obviously if you are able to understand value and the material and service nature of a product, you could also be in charge of imagining communication strategy, 360 degrees about this product service system. It's interesting also imagine that you could enter the program with a food startup or entrepreneurial approach, so you could become the person that is able to do by your own the development of your ideas. Is not just the idea of being employed in another reality, but be yourself an entrepreneur. And there is also this idea of becoming an innovation specialist, because obviously food is connected with a lot of other areas. Just to say technological innovation, just to say, I don't know, precision agriculture. So I could know a lot about food and then work in a technological enterprise. Formal requirements is not my task, so I leave you the stage about that.
Sure. Thank you very much, Professor Maffei, for this very insightful presentation and the inspirational images. I'm sure that everyone appreciated them. So let me just give you a couple more information about the selection process. In order to take part to it, you can scan the QR code that you find in this slide, and then you will access the Specializing Master webpage. You can then click on the Apply button, create your own account, and upload all the requirement documents. Once your account is created, you can decide whether you want to continue the application on that moment or finish it later. Please remember that all the applications are processed in chronological order, and so until all the seats are filled. These are indeed the final deadlines, so please don't wait until the last minute to apply it. Also, by visiting our Specializing Masters webpage, we will have the chance to discover all the promotional policies that we developed for you in order to show you our commitment to support your study path at POLI.design and your future. Indeed, one of these is for our Open Day 24 reduction that equals to 15% discount off the tuition fee of the master. You will need to apply within 7 days from today and process your payment within 21 days from today in order to take advantage of it. Now let's move into the Q&A session to see what interesting questions you have asked. So Professor Maffei, could you please give us some examples of the projects you developed during the past editions?
Yes, obviously I could really use the case of Garofalo. We did with Garofalo this workshop dedicated to how the Eastern cultural influences could change the most typical Italian product, that is pasta. So we were analyzing the different cultural tradition, and through that we moved into a project that was a product project, also involving a part of the experiment. How to treat pasta is not just about how it's shaped, but it's how the preparation influences that. Taking influence from the Chinese culture, because obviously we share with this culture the idea that pasta is a relevant part of our food experience. And I could not say more, because from this project with the student we generated a consultancy project that is actually working on that. And it's very important because we will publish very soon the experience of Emilio Mansi, that is the chief of the marketing and product development in Garofalo Pasta, that will tell the story of this project that is lasting, I think, at least since 1 year. And I think that there will be also the intervention, I could say that, of a 3-star Michelin chef that is working together with us to develop the final product solution. So just to mention that this was originated by an agreed brief together with Garofalo, work that was made in 3 weeks together with the students working as a junior design agency, so with a professional and all the class together to tackle the challenge. And at the end we had the presentation with the client partner that he was so satisfied of the result that he decided to continue the collaboration in the consulting part. So this is just one example of the project we do.
That's a very interesting example. Thank you so much. I also have another question for you. I have seen that professional outcomes are various, so my question is this master addressed to designers only? And in case it is not, how do the different students with different backgrounds cooperate during the master?
Obviously, I think that I could answer in 2 different parts. The first is absolutely not. You don't have to be a designer to enroll in the program. Also because we had the experience of very different backgrounds coming from, I don't know, marketing, economy, engineering, architecture. So we had really different backgrounds. And in general, what we appreciate or try to teach is the projectual attitude. So the idea that we intervene in reality not just with analysis, but through a project that could transform and produce something that is evident. Second thing is, in my opinion, that this attitude generates work in groups, because obviously there is an individual learning and experience, but usually both in the theoretical part in which we do exercise together with the professor, but in groups, but also during the workshop, you are not alone. It's not just an individual work. So we could build complementary groups that are based on different approaches or background. And this works very well because when you have to, for example, develop a project of a product, service, or a process or a strategy for innovation or something like that, you need to have, let's say, a more economic oriented kind of glance, kind of vision, because you have to produce a viability or a feasibility of your work. So you need to understand that. Then, for example, you could develop a solution. Then you have, again, to think about the distribution. So how I bring my product to the market. So I have to understand the service part. And then, again, different competencies could intervene, for example, in the design of the space, in the design of the communication, in understanding which are all these complex things that added together bring the final systemic solution.
Great. Thank you very much for the detailed answer. I have one last question for you. I know that you have already told us which can be the career opportunities after completing this master, but where exactly could these students work? Which type of companies?
But we had the experience of this girl coming from South America that now is working this very important startup in Barcelona that is developing VAG-based product. Okay, I think that this is obviously she's working the marketing part, obviously, but this is one of the example of this the strange mix between the possibility of entering as an innovation specialist, but also to understand the complexity of a system, give a contribution in a specific emergent market like the one of the VAG-based product. Another example is our German student that experienced it in one of our professor enterprises that is this balsamic vinegar company, very specialized one, the traditional balsamic vinegar. And he applied the competence of the entrepreneur that is about fermentation in developing a new sauce condiment that is taking some inspiration from the antique garum sauce that was the famous sauce made by the Romans, but moving this experience into a contemporary taste. So it's more like norma-oriented experiences. So about this, say, a little bit trendy experience of alternative foods. And now he's transforming this experience in his own enterprise. So he's developing this as a startup. So I gave two examples. One is dedicated to a more, let's say, traditional way of being employed in a company. The second is how you could shape your personal path and develop your company.
Perfect. So plenty of opportunities. Thank you so much again, Professor Maffei, for presenting our Specializing Master in Design for Food, and thank you all for being here with us. I just would like to remind you to stay connected in order to understand more about POLI.design and its services.